Today's lesson is going to cover coordinate geometry. So first we're going to cover just being given 4 coordinates and trying to decipher what type of quadrilateral it is. So our first step for doing this is we're going to check our side lengths. And then our second step is we're going to check our diagonal lengths. So since we're running lengths, we're finding the distance, and we're going to use the distance one. Case 1 is for a parallelogram. Remember, in the parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent, diagonals are not congruent. Case 2 is our rectangle. Opposite sides are congruent, and our diagonals are also congruent. Case 3 is our rhombus. All 4 sides are congruent, and our diagonals are not congruent. And then case 4 is a square. All 4 sides are congruent, and all 4 diagonals are congruent. So I like to think of these broken up into 2 clusters. Case 1 and 2 come together, because in case 1 and 2, my opposite sides are congruent. So I'm just deciding, are my opposite sides congruent, or are they not congruent? So my opposite sides are congruent in my first 2 boxes. From there, once I know that I'm choosing between these 2, I just need to check my diagonals. And it's a difference between your diagonals being congruent and your diagonals not being congruent. So your diagonals are congruent here. In case 1 in a parallelogram, they're not. And then I would break it down into my second box. So my second cluster would be cases 3 and 4. And that's because in this cluster, all 4 sides are going to be equal. So if all 4 of my sides are equal, I'm choosing between a rhombus or a square. And then again, it comes down to either my diagonals being not congruent or my diagonals being congruent, to decide between the 2 of those. So if we dive into number 1, I like to always have a rough sketch of a quadrilateral, just to see what sides I'm going to be running, what sides are opposite of each other. And I'm going to run the distance of a. So, x minus x, 9 minus 8, squared and added to y minus y, 34 minus negative 2 squared, for an answer of radical 5. Across from AB is BC. I want to do opposite sides just to distinguish between cluster 1 and cluster 2. So 3 minus 2 squared and added to negative 7 minus negative 5 squared, for an answer of radical 5. So in this case, I am seeing AB is congruent to BC. So I'm going to mark that. Then I'm going to do AD. So x minus x, 9 minus 3 squared and added to y minus y, negative 4 minus negative 7 squared, which is radical 45. And then lastly, we're going to do BC. So I have x minus x, 8 minus 2, squared and added to y minus y, negative 2 minus negative 5 squared, which is radical 45. So again, I'm seeing that AD is congruent to BC. So what I notice here is that my opposite sides are congruent. So I'm looking at cluster 1, which is case 1 and 2 together, either parallelogram or rectangle. I now need to run my diagonals. I have D to B and A to C. So dB, x minus x, 3 minus 8 squared and added to y minus y, negative 7 minus 2 squared, radical 50. And then AC, so x minus x, 9 minus 2 squared and added to y minus y, negative 4 minus negative 5 squared, so radical 50. And since my diagonals are congruent, choosing between parallelogram and rectangle, I'm left with rectangle as the winner. In a rectangle, opposite sides are congruent and diagonals are congruent as well. Go ahead and turn the page, and I want you guys to pause the video and try number 2 on your own, and then check your answer when you are done. Alright, so when you run this one, you get all 4 sides congruent, which means I'm choosing between cluster 2, cases 3 and 4, rhombus or square. When I run my diagonals, they are not congruent, so I'm looking at the winner of a rhombus. Rhombus has all 4 sides equal, but diagonals not equal. Go ahead and turn to page 17. All right, on 17, we are looking at a parallelogram to start, and I would have your flowchart out. Just all those properties are going to be really helpful right now. And right now, if I read over all of this, it says, what is the slope of QR? So when I think slope, I'm going to think about line relationships, and in particular, like parallel lines, which have the same slope, if you remember that. So I'm given the coordinates of P and S, and I'm asked to find QR. Well, if you remember, opposite sides are parallel in a parallelogram. So if I find the slope of PS, which I've given those two coordinates, it's going to be the same as the slope of QR because opposite sides are parallel. Remember your slope formula is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. So if I'm finding the slope of PS, which is also finding the slope of QR, since they are opposite sides and they're going to be parallel. If I take y minus y, so I'm going to take 6 minus negative 3 over x minus x, negative 1 minus negative 7. That's going to give you plus positive, so 9, plus positive, so 6, and then reduce that, and it's going to be 5 by 3, 3 over 2 for my slope of QR. On the second one, I have a rectangle. I'm given the coordinates of A and B, but I'm asked to find BC. So we have to remember, how do these two lines intersect? Well, in a in a rectangle, remember, they intersect at a right angle. So right here is a 90-degree angle. Remember, perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. So I cannot find the slope of AB and just say it's the slope of BC. I have to find it and then manipulate it to make it the slope of BC. So if I find the slope of AB, again, y minus y, 4 minus 6, over x minus x, 3 minus 7. That's negative 2 over negative 4, which is positive 1/2. If I want the slope of BC, remember it's going to be an opposite reciprocal. So I have to flip it over and change its sign. And we can just write that as a negative 2 1/2 spot. On number 3, we have a rhombus. We are given the coordinates for W and Y, but we're asked to find X and Z. So we're given WY, asked to find X and Z. Well, these guys intersect, diagonals intersect in a rhombus at a 90-degree angle. So again, they need to be perpendicular. So if I find the slope of WY to start, again, y minus y, 2 minus negative 2, over x minus x, negative 5 minus 3. That's going to give me 0 over negative 8, which just gives me a 0. Well, I want a perpendicular slope, so I want the opposite reciprocal slope here. The opposite reciprocal to a 0 slope is your undefined slope, so your vertical line. You guys go ahead and pause the video and try number 4, and type in your answer when you are prompted. All right, last chunk. On a parallelogram, we are asked to find the length. So my length is my keyword here. When I hear length, I want to think distance. All right, so we are most likely just going to see if things are the same length or not. So we are given the coordinates of ST. We're asked to find VU. Remember, opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. So if I know ST and I find the length of it, it's going to be the length of VU as well. So running my distance of ST, I do x minus x, so negative 4 minus 5 squared and added to y minus 1, 1 minus 3 squared. So that tells me that ST is equal to radical 85, which means VU is also equal to radical 85. Go ahead and do number 6 and type in your answer when you are prompted to on the video. On 7, we're given a rectangle. We are told that we have coordinates G and F. We're asked to find GE. Well, these are diagonals. So remember, in a rectangle, diagonals are congruent. So if I find the distance of DF, I also have the distance of QE. So x minus x, negative 1 minus 4 squared and added to y minus y, and 1 minus negative 8 squared. So GF is radical 74, which means GE is also radical 74. 8 is a parallelogram. They give us the coordinates of A, B, C, and D, and they want us to find the coordinates of E. Well, remember, in a parallelogram, in all quadrilaterals, this E is your midpoint. So I want to find the midpoint. Your midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So we can find the midpoint of either AC or DB. It doesn't matter because E is in the middle of both. So I'm going to just use A and C. So I want to do 1 plus 5 divided by 2, and then 1 plus negative 5 divided by 2. 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 1 plus negative 5 is negative 4, and 4 divided by 2 is negative